again. It's a rich.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Culture Exchange Podcast, episode 4. And I have a very special guest with me today. It's going to be my boy, Jared Wiles. Say what's up to everyone. People. Jared, it's my guy. So before we get to the interview with Jared, we're going to just mention a couple of very important people that have recently passed away. It is John Lewis and C.T. Vivian. And if you guys do not know, these two people were very important to the civil rights movement right when Martin Luther King was still alive. Just in case people don't know, I will read a little bit about these two guys. I pulled up an article from BBC, and what they say about John Lewis, I'm going to just read a little bit from the article. It says that Lewis was one of the big six civil rights leaders, which included Martin Luther King Jr., and helped organize the historic 1963 March on Washington. Also, being very important to the civil rights movement, if the former president Barack Obama shouts you out or even mentions your legacy, it should prove how important you are to the actual movement. That's just a small portion of how important he was back in the civil rights movement, because things are a lot better for us now because of what was done back then. And for C.T. Vivian, we're going to just mention an article by CNN. And what CNN says is that C.T. Vivian was a major force in the civil rights movement. He worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in the struggle for racial equality. So again, these two guys that just passed away is the reason why we are a lot closer to racial equality, and they should be mentioned everywhere, such as BET, television, movies. These guys are very important. So moving on to the next subject, we are going to be interviewing my buddy here, Jared Wiles. And we just have a few questions, very light questions, and he's just going to kind of explain to you guys what he does for a living, why he does it, and how he got there. So the first question is, who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Well, Jared Wiles, as you already mentioned. Grew up in the Metro Detroit area, specifically Ypsilanti, Michigan. I know nobody's heard of that. Most people can't pronounce it. Right outside of Ann Arbor. So what do? I am a automation manufacturing engineer. So I work on cool stuff with our products every day. Work on really fancy equipment. Get to travel a lot for work, which is really fun, except for when COVID's going on. But typically, even right now, I would probably be traveling. So, I enjoy what I do and very blessed to have been given the opportunities I've been given in life.
Yeah, got a very, very busy guy. He's a very hard guy to keep track of and keep up with. I just want to kind of delve into your early life. So
sure.
What was kind of your upbringing? Was it influenced by any specific person or any specific thing in your past?
My upbringing, so, I grew up, my two parents, my little sister. I would say for my upbringing, I mostly was just like right next to my dad my entire life.
So your dad, yeah.
So there was not a single thing I did on a weekend or even during the week that, I wasn't with him doing. Even to this day, if I go home, tomorrow and he says, hey, I need you to help me for 15 minutes, I can guarantee you I'll be helping him for 3 or 4 hours. That's just how it's always been and always will be. So, that's my upbringing, just having that great mentorship throughout my entire life, being able to work along his side, learn things, grow. I won't say it was all roses.
I don't think anybody's childhood was just roses.
There were arguments, there were times we didn't get along, there were times that, he's like, get out, which, never was going to actually happen, but it was just the pressure, to apply to make me who I am today.
Yeah, that's a really big help, because without that kind of push, do you think you would be in the space that you are now? Mentally
probably not. No. And tell you, there's a lot of things that I would have preferred to have cared about as a kid or preferred to have done. Even in high school, I tried to drop out of band class to do swimming. I was a athlete. I swam and played tennis when I was in high school. And I tried to drop out of band and do lifeguard, overlap with the band course. So, I went ahead and did it. Didn't tell anyone, just did it on my own. And about a week later, I was back in band. So that tells you right there, there were some things that were a choice and some things were, this is what you're going to do. And, you'll learn from it and you'll enjoy it later. So, and, to this day, I still have a huge passion for music. So.
Yes.
I might not get to play instruments a lot, but I listen to a lot of music and different types of music and everything. So.
Okay. What's your favorite type of music right now?
Right now, I listen to mostly EDM. Yeah.
That started in our hometown, by the way. It started in Detroit. It didn't start in Europe.
Did not start in Europe. Did not start in Chicago. That started in Detroit, not New York, LA, any of that funky stuff.
Yeah, people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that.
No, a lot of people do not know that. We have a music festival every Memorial Day weekend that very few people have even heard about. Movement. Shout out to those guys. It's a festival I've gone to a couple of times in my lifetime, and I've always enjoyed it. It's always good to be home with that one.
All right, so besides your beautiful, beautiful new car, what drives you to do better every day?
Drives me to do better every day.
Yeah.
There's always going to be different things that I want in life, so like doing better every day, not only, is it, something that I want to do better every day from a personal standpoint, as far as like, what I'm doing in my personal life, different things that I may have going on or want to do better or, organize differently or whatever. Even professionally, like I always want to do better because I'm always looking for that recognition and always looking to continue climbing that corporate ladder, right? Yeah. So I've always had a two-track mind where not only do I want to have like my corporate thing, but I also want to have my personal stuff going on and businesses or whatever on the side, right? But I've always believed that, having those two paths will allow me to do a little bit better, right?
Yeah, just like incrementally every single day.
Every single day, like, ensuring that the work I'm putting out is quality work. I'm not just submitting something because I feel it's a task and it needs to be done. Yeah. But, what I'm submitting is, hey, this is accurate, it's data driven, this is not something that I just quickly threw together willy-nilly and just want you to see. It's, this is something important.
It's dope, dude.
Try and do that every single
day. Jared equals quality. Pretty much what he pretty much said there. Staying on the topic of your job, you work for a very lucrative consumer electronic company that is in the shape of a specific fruit. And why did you choose to work there?
Well, I've always been a fanboy of that company. I bought my first device when I believe I was a freshman. But even before then, I absolutely loved them, right? So, the first iPod was released in 2002, right? And nobody knew what it was, right? Nobody knew what it could do. Even back then, I was a huge music head. So, like, I walked around with, we grew up in the 90s, right? Yeah. So CD player and a pack of CDs in your book bag, right? Like that was the shit. I always wanted an iPod, right? I could never afford an iPod at that time, right? Even if I asked my parents for an iPod, they weren't going to get one. They were hella expensive, like it wasn't something that you were, even on like Christmas, we're probably going to get, right? But I always wanted to have a lot of music with me. So I was always a fanboy of that particular product. So when I was a freshman in high school, that summer, so I think it was my summer going into sophomore, my band teacher had asked me to kind of join the marching band. You're a great player, you're really great on clarinet, I'd really like to have you in our marching band. The one thing she did not know is I have zero coordination. So me being in her marching band would have been absolutely tragic for her. So the money that I had saved all summer long to, pay for my marching band camp and class and everything, I decided to buy an iPod with.
What?
Yeah. So I think I put some of the money towards my first car that I bought at the time too. Being a huge car guy from a car family, it's band or a car. Well, I'm gonna put the money towards the car. Why not?
Dude, did you tell the guy that interviewed you that story that you spent that money on an iPod?
I told them I'd always been a fanboy. Yeah, so that was actually I can get to that in a second. It was one of my questions, or my question for them during the interview. Yeah, so I've just always been a fanboy through middle school, high school, all through college. Always using a Mac instead of a PC.
Yeah.
And in engineering, that is not an easy thing to do. Pretty well every software out there and program you need to use as an engineer is designed to run on a PC,
yep.
right? So you're partitioning hard drives, you're trying to make something work that probably really shouldn't work, and half the time it doesn't work well. So, that was just me, and that was what I always wanted, right? To this day, I still have my MacBook from 2011. Don't use it much, but I still have it.
Yeah, it still works.
Yeah, it still works.
That's a testament to how reliable the products from your company
and devices, yeah. So, and like during my interview, that was, my question to everyone was, what brought you here? Yeah. Like, why do you want to be here every day, right? And turning a interview into something more personal.
Yeah.
Right.
That's tough.
It's very tough, right? Because some people don't want to just like open up and give you that information. Some people do. For me, I was very fortunate that everyone that I asked that question to, was really open.
Yeah.
All the way up, from guys that are, the same level as me, all the way up to my director.
Oh, dude.
So it was a great interview experience. Extremely stressful, but a great interview experience.
Of course, if you're interviewing for a company that large, you're going to sweat. Or if you're not sweating going in, they're going to make you sweat.
Make you sweat when you get there. And it did not take very long to sweat. I can guarantee you that.
All right. So in the next 5 years, where do you see Jared? What do you see Jared in the next 5 years in 2025?
2025.
Yeah.
Well, 2020 I kind of see as like a new chapter in my professional career, right? Having worked about 5 years prior professionally, at other companies, I feel like I'm kind of starting over.
Yeah.
Right? So trying to just really understand, how we work as an organization, how different things, happen over time. Trying to really get that down is kind of what I'm working on the first kind of year or so.
Okay.
And then still haven't finished my master's. Definitely need to do that.
Man, one of the smartest guys right here.
As much as I am procrastinating, don't want to do it, don't want to spend the money on it, I know I need to, right? Yeah. So I need to go ahead and get that engineering management degree and just call it done, and then continue moving. Careers can move quickly and slowly, and that's all about the effort you put in.
True.
Right?
That's very true.
So I put in, my 110% on a daily basis. Even in the first 6 months of work I've had accolades already. I've had, folks come to me and say, you're doing a great job, especially for coming in and really knowing nothing. I came from automotive. Right?
Yeah, like most of the people that come from Michigan.
Yeah. So I come from working in a world that is totally different. It's not even close to being the same. And even on a technical level, right? So automotive, like we worked in millimeters, right? Now I work in like micrometers.
Yeah,
right? I work in stuff you can't see.
You have to fit like something in like with this much space inside of the phone,
Yeah. Your hair, like I work in things that like, you're splitting hairs, right? And those are the type of discussions, I'm in on a daily basis. So it's really interesting, and it's definitely a learning curve for me. I can definitely take the things I've learned in my past and apply them, which is great. And it definitely brings another perspective into, what we're working on a daily basis. Like on a daily basis, I can, see myself going back to, hey, this is something I've done in my past and we should investigate doing, A, B, C, or D or whatever.
Okay.
From a 5-year point of view, I would like to, continue moving up and see where that leads me. Degree, there's some personal stuff I want to work on. I always have a bunch of ideas. My head never stops. And that's kind of a problem also.
That's the mark of a true genius.
Yeah.
Because Elon Musk Says
Yeah.
his mind doesn't stop.
Right. That's probably my biggest struggling point is like I have all these things
Yeah.
in my head and all these things I want to do and all these things are like super cool ideas and it's like, all right, how do I organize this and put it together and make it a thing? I'm really good at helping other folks make their thing a thing, but I haven't been able to make my own thing a thing. So trying to figure that out, but you know, in 5 years, you know, maybe not be in an apartment, buy a house, stuff like that. But
by the way, we're in San Jose, California, which is where some of the most expensive real estate is.
Yeah, just Silicon Valley in general.
It's ridiculous. So people that move out here that are not born and raised here, they have to come up with a lot of capital, a lot of money to purchase a home out here. So this guy is well on his way to that. Even I think before 5 years, man. I'm gonna call it right now.
I really hope so. But the way we're settling in here, we're settling kind of for the long haul. But you know, 3 years I think here is long enough, and then from there we got to figure something out. So
yeah. Okay. But all right. The next question is, I know you kind of talked about how you got to where you are now. What steps did you take to get to this point? So you started from internship, full time at Ford. You went to here, and now you're at.
Right.
So how? Like, tell everyone where you started from, and what steps you took to move to the next level and to where you got.
All right. Steps. Well, first I'll start with some of it's luck. Okay. Like just being straight up honest. Like you have to go like so luck and God, right? Having faith and like you know, I've never claimed to be like the most spiritual person or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you know, there's always been those points in life where like you kind of have to sit down and pray and reflect, right? So there have been many a times I've had to do that. Okay, and then after that, you know, it's him doing his work and luck. So kind of getting started, you know, as a kid, like I said, always working with my dad, right? So working on our cars together, learning with him. Working with him on his businesses, cutting grass. You know, I started cutting grass when I was like 10.
Oh,
right.
shoot.
So like, if I could sweep the sidewalk, that's what he was having me do. Right. You know, I didn't have a social life in middle school or high school. Like, every weekend I was in the city cutting grass with him. Right. So like, loading the truck up, go do what we have to do, come home. By then I was too tired to do anything. Right. You're spending all day working.
True.
So. And, you know, I got to work with my daddy and my grandfather at that time, right? So it was like all three gens, you know.
You got all that knowledge, all that wisdom.
Tons of knowledge and just wisdom and just learning and, you know, working, making money and being able to, like, do the things that I wanted to do even as a kid. I had that work ethic instilled in me at a young age, right? Yeah. I did okay in high school. I had a lot of teachers tell me I could do better. I won't say I went to the best. I did not go to a prestigious high school. I went to a high school where if you were really smart, you could get by very quickly. You didn't have to put in a lot of effort. Okay. If you were really smart and put in effort, you were a valedictorian.
Sheesh.
Okay. Looking back and reflecting, I wish I would have put in more effort. You know, I probably could have been one of those valedictorians or at least a candidate or something. But, you know, I just graduated with the rest of my class and did my thing. Yeah. Which, you know, worked for me. You know, continued working through high school, did sports, tennis, swimming. You know, those are the other type of things where, like, they give you those team building skills, right?
Yes, that's so super important. No.
Right? And what I do every single day is work on a team, with a team. Yeah. I'm never alone. I'm never, like, you know, a lone soldier or on a deserted island.
You can't be.
No, you can't.
Especially working.
And especially working in engineering, right? Dude. So companies and firms that don't understand working as a team in engineering are the ones, in my opinion, that can and will struggle the most. Yeah. You know, graduated. I wanted to go to Florida Institute of Technology. I realized that it was not cheap. You know, I really just wanted to move to Florida. You know, my grandparents lived there at the time. My grandfather lived there at the time. You know, so I would have got to spend a lot of time with him. Also would have just got to live in Florida and go surfing and do all the fun things I like to do.
No snow?
Right, no snow. God, I hate snow. But that didn't quite work out. So, went to Wayne State University. Great school. Been told by a number of folks that they don't envy me and would have preferred to have, they're happy they went to their school. As you know, our curriculum is not easy.
Yeah, we went to the same university.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Right. There are courses that we take as undergrad that typically graduate students would take as an elective.
Yep.
Right. So it's not easy, right? And you're learning stuff that's difficult. You're also trying to juggle a work schedule at the same time, right?
Yes.
So that's the big thing with engineering is you need those co-ops, you need those internships, right? You need to build that resume while you're in school to assist you professionally when you graduate. So my big break was, knowing the car stuff, having a good community behind me. I was able, I had some friends that worked at Ford, they were, professionals already. I had a friend put in a really good word for me.
Yeah.
I applied to the internship super late, to be quite frank. And I got a call. I was actually in the middle of class. I think it was math class or something, calculus, algebra, I don't know. Actually, I think it was calculus. So I get a call in the middle of class, I answer it. Little interview. Actually, it turned out it was the recruiter for Wayne State, Benny Wong. Still know his name.
Wow. I talked to the same guy, actually.
Yeah, we in theory should have because he recruited for the same school. So, Benny called and we had a great conversation. And he's like, we'll see what we can do and we'll call you back in a few weeks or whatever. Didn't hear from him. So this is where the luck comes in. The person that they had chosen opted not to take the internship. She wanted to finish school that summer. And her idea was, I will work my internship, but at the same time, I want to take classes. Well, those classes were in the middle of the day. You can't get away from work in the middle of the day. So, she had to make a decision. She wanted to, it's either I want to graduate now or, take my internship and graduate a semester later.
Crazy.
So they called me and they rushed me through the process. Within a week, I think I started the last week that intern started, and I'll bet you it was maybe 1 or 2 weeks before then that I even had a phone call and an offer. So rushed through the process. So did school, had 5 interns at Ford Motor Company through the summers, tons of different projects, really fun, cool stuff, especially as a student.
Yeah. And this is before that new Mustang was released.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I graduated in fall of 2014. That was a 2015 model year. So I had a couple of co-ops. I had one at TRW Automotive that lasted very shortly. Me and my supervisor did not see eye to eye. So I decided to make my exit. But before doing that, because you never leave without an exit plan, I ensured I had another role set up somewhere else, which is when I started at American Axle.
Yes.
So I co-opted American Axle for 2 semesters. I skipped the summers to continue my summer internships at Ford, but I worked a winter and a fall, and the fall was the semester I graduated. Got a full-time offer at Ford, started full-time.
Damn, dude. That's...
So I had my full-time offer for Ford before I graduated, months before I graduated, which made my last semester really difficult.
Yeah, that's a big brain move, man, to have a job already locked down before you even graduate.
Right. So you're like, do I really need to pass this test? I just need to get maintain my grade point and I'll be all right.
And get that piece of paper.
But it's engineering, so you never know what's going to happen, and the curve is not always with you.
True.
So did the best I could, managing work, managing personal life, all that good stuff. Went to work full time. That's, when my career really started. There was still lots of luck involved. I worked on 2 launches with Ford. That was very stressful, very long days.
Yeah.
Just not getting to see family, not getting to see friends, missing birthdays. When you do show up to a party, everyone goes, wait, is that Jared? He's here? So that was very interesting. And towards the end of it, I could see the stress getting to me in different ways.
Yeah.
In ways that I didn't like. It was ways that I was acting out on, right? So I wasn't holding it internally. I was starting to act out on it.
Oof.
And that's when I knew I needed to change something. So I didn't particularly start looking for a job, but I was looking. I wanted to wait at least until, the program I was on, I wanted to finish that launch.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I was going to finish that launch. I would have had 2 full launches under my belt, learned a lot, and really, launch is, in theory, enjoyable. When things are successful. When they go successfully, you do things right, it's very enjoyable. And you have to have a great team to allow you to do that. It just so happened that I had a recruiter contact me through LinkedIn. So remember that luck thing.
If you do not have a LinkedIn profile and you want to get a really good paying job,
get a
LinkedIn profile, please. It's worth your time.
Immediately. Make sure it's clean. Use it professionally. There's a lot of folks that don't. Recruiter contacted me, go for the interview. Like I said, knew nothing about the company. No intentions on taking the role, but kind of wanted to start practicing interviewing again, essentially. So I was in Chicago, and I knew I wanted to stay in Chicago. I did not want to go back to Michigan. I felt that Chicago may be like a land of opportunity. Well, come to find out, I don't want to make Chicago seem that bad, but there's a lot of selfish people in Chicago. It's very difficult. At least for me, it was very difficult for me to mend with folks and build relationships. People were very closed off. So it was you kind of had to know somebody that knew somebody, and then maybe they would introduce you, and then hopefully you were cool.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't have those relationships and those networks because I'd only been there for 6 months.
True. That's tough to get an actual circle of friends in a new place where they won't even talk to you.
Right. And it's easy to do when you have all the time.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I didn't have any time. Right. I was working 7 days a week, minimum of a 12-hour day. Right. So no time. I worked Christmas Day and New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, even no time at all. Just craziness. Right. I go to this interview and it actually wasn't bad. Company was completely trying to 180 themselves, do something new, become innovative, become more efficient, really drive themselves to the top of their market, which was really cool and really inspiring. Even the manager that, ultimately hired me, had only been there for a month,
Really? So the guy that brought you on had
new.
only been there for a month?
Yeah.
Man, that is...
Right. So, he was totally new, and he was another person, that they had brought in to, innovate, change the company, make it more efficient, lean. There was a big emphasis on lean while I was there. For those that don't know what lean is, but Lean Six Sigma, manufacturing, all that good stuff.
We know what that is.
Yeah.
We know what that is, but people that are not in the automotive industry don't know what that is.
Or just manufacturing in general.
It's pretty much just if you had your own household, running your household as efficient as possible. So that's pretty much the meaning of it.
Not losing time, not losing money.
Yeah.
Operating at full capacity.
Yeah.
Just technically not possible. We won't get there. So, I go to the interview and the team was really nice.
Yeah.
I expected this interview to be 30 minutes. I actually went with I took the morning off from work, and I went with the intention of it being a half hour and me able to drive back to work before my first meeting started. That didn't happen. It took about 3 hours. I'm glad I took the entire morning off. So like I said, it was really inspiring. Went back to my apartment, changed, went to my regular job, and kept doing that thing. And they called the next day. Wanted to make an offer. I countered. Their offer was strong. Need a little bit more. It takes me a lot to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. So although what I was doing at Ford was stressful and all these things were going on, it was comfortable. I knew how to do my job, and no one could do my job better than me, at least in my opinion.
That's what you call job security.
Right. There were things that I had locked in my head that nobody knew. Right. I knew when they need to be done, how they need to be done. I didn't tell anyone that. It's technically planned and out there laid out, but the intricate details of it, I knew, right? So I know what to do, when to do it, all these things, where I'm going to something that's completely new and I don't know that.
Yeah,
right.
It's going to take a lot of lot of this.
It takes a lot of money to break you out of your comfort zone. So ultimately, they came back with something that was strong enough. It put me on par to, the great thing at Ford is, we were able to make overtime, right?
True.
So, that was wonderful. And most, corporate roles, you're not making overtime at all. You get your straight salary for the year.
Doing your 40 hours a week.
Your 40 hours a week.
Even if you work more than 40, you're still getting paid
exactly.
40.
You're getting paid 40. You get your salary for the year, and you better be happy with it.
Yeah.
Ford, is one of those companies that is, in that sense, great to their employees that they pay them for their extra time.
Yeah.
Which I was very appreciative of. But at the end of the year, for all of the effort I put in, I could never break a barrier. There was always a number I had in my head that I could never break. I'd get to it. Like, when I say I'd get to it, within hundreds of dollars to it, very close. There were times where I was like thousands of dollars off of it, just depending on how the year went. But, I get very close, but I could never get there, right? And that's, like I said, working long days. They ultimately got there. So I said, well, I'd rather go work 40 hours a week, enjoy my life, enjoy a beautiful new city, and continue making the same money I'm making now. So sayonara.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I left Ford Motor Company. I went to, it was Dexter Magnetics Technologies in Elk Grove Village, Chicago, or Elk Grove Village, Illinois, I should say. They're just outside of O'Hare. Did magnetics and assemblies for all sorts of different stuff. We basically didn't do anything in automotive, but we did, defense, military, aerospace, medical, electronics, pretty well any other thing that has magnets in it.
Yeah.
We were in that industry in some way, shape, or form. So I worked on really cool stuff and things that were like life-changing and innovative.
Yeah.
Everything from a heart pump to things that, help with separating blood and fluids so that, it could be studied.
And that probably fulfilled your actual, that made you feel better that you could go to a place where you can actually help design something that actually help people out in the future.
Right. So helping people, and then helping the company become more efficient, more lean, designing and building new processes that, would significantly help them. They had zero automation. So that was kind of why I was brought in, was to help with automation. Having the mechanical, technical machine background that I have, that was the whole idea. Within the 6 months there, I started, was it 6 months? It was just about 6 months. Started the project, but I didn't get to see it to the end. An automation project can take up to, a year and a half to really just get completely settled.
Yeah, you have to go through phases of trying
different
stuff
phases,
out. And all right,
design,
this doesn't work.
Manufacturing, actual implementation, debug, all that good stuff. On a schedule, it's weeks, but in reality, from an overall organizational point of view, it takes a lot of time to get 100% right. Or I won't say 100% right, but very close, right? So 90% of the way there, right? Yeah. You're always going to have optimizations and things that you can do later, but your first dart on the board needs to be pretty close. You don't want to go and spend $1 million on something and it not do what it's supposed to do, right? Yeah. Nobody's going to be happy at that. So I had no intentions on leaving Dexter. I actually thoroughly enjoyed working there. Like I said, my manager was really cool. He was trying to move me into doing a couple of other things while I was there. I was doing some supervision work. I was doing a lot of really kind of different things, but I could see the path for movement. Yeah,
so they were kind of giving you tasks that were kind of preparing you to move up to that next level at Dexter.
Preparing me to become a supervisor either on the floor or even kind of opening roles in the office where I could supervise in there and kind of super guys that had worked there for 30 years, which I'll be honest felt really weird. But nevertheless, that's evolution, right?
Yeah.
So right around just before July 4th, I believe. No, I take that back. Just before Memorial Day, I get a message on LinkedIn from an Alpha recruiter. Now, this is not the first time I had gotten a message from an Alpha recruiter. Yeah. I've been messaged through LinkedIn twice before then. Both of those times that I responded and had phone interviews and whatnot were not successful, right? Obviously I was still at Ford. Obviously I went to, right? So, not successful at all for whatever reasons. So this one, I tried to play my cards right. Talked to the recruiter. She was super cool. Then they sent my resume out to the hiring managers, and got a call back. Talked to the hiring manager, also a really cool guy, and ultimately was told to come on site for an in-person interview. So I scheduled my 4th of July trip, which was my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, but I'd planned to propose to her there, so
Sheesh.
Did all that, and then scheduled the interview for the Tuesday after my trip. Told my boss I was extending my trip. I told him that my girlfriend, fiance decided to surprise me and that we were extending the trip. We were doing something else in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I wouldn't be coming back on time. What I was really doing was flying back to Chicago, getting my hair cut, getting cleaned up, getting some new clothes, repacking my suitcase, getting back on a plane and flying to San Jose / the Silicon Valley, Cupertino area for an interview. Go to my interview. That was about the longest 6 hours of my life.
6 hours? They had to. They made you. Did they make you wait for a portion of that time, or did they? I know they didn't interview you for 6 hours.
Yeah. So they're all half-hour long interviews, except for one. One was an hour, and that was actually the one with my current manager. That was a lunch interview though, so it takes a little longer because you need time to go get your lunch, blah blah blah. Go back to your room, continue your interview, and then actually does something really cool where he only interviews you for about 15 of the 30 minutes he should, and then from there it kind of becomes a little bit relaxing, chilled. So we actually went and walked around the park. I kind of got to see the park and all the things in it, and that's when I became inspired. Just being inside the ring was holy crap.
For the people that don't know about the campus, it looks like a UFO. In the video, I'm showing it to you right now. The Apple campus is absolutely insane. It's humongous. We actually drove by it today, and I couldn't believe the scale of the entire building. Mm-hmm. And they still need more buildings than that to house their employees during the workday, which is crazy to think that such a large corporation can't have all of their employees in that gigantic campus. They have to have additional buildings.
I think there's 12,000 of us in that particular building on a daily basis. And, there's many other buildings around the Silicon Valley area that people are in. So went for the interview. I'll be honest, when I got done, I wanted nothing more than a beer and a shot. I left the park. I went to the visitor center across the street. I was so exhausted. I bought an espresso just so I could be awake. I called what was then at the time my fiance and explained to her how the day went. But my second interview, I felt like I fumbled.
Really?
She asked a lot of questions that I did not know the answers to the point where I was giving a lot of, I don't know the details. I would have to get back to you on that later. And that's the thing. Always be honest.
Yeah.
Right? Never BS, right? Or try and sugarcoat something or walk around the answer or, give an answer that just isn't right.
Yeah.
It's okay to say you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one thing I've figured out. I can say I don't know.
Trying to BS somebody is the fastest way to be kindly asked to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just be honest. With everything, not even just job interviews, just in life. Mm-hmm. If you're more honest with people, you're going to weed out a lot of the people that shouldn't be in your life.
Trust, ethics, morals.
Yep.
Those are, those are the big things in life that you don't just use at work.
Yeah, that's true.
You use that in life all the time. So from my second interview, throughout the entire day, I was thrown off. 100% thrown off. Didn't drink enough water. Didn't have enough coffee to stay awake. I was on a different time schedule at that point, being on Pacific Coast instead of Chicago Central Time.
Yeah.
Like I said, some of the interviews I thought went great. Some of them where I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was walking out of the door on my way to leave. They told me to turn around. I had one more interview that was scheduled last minute. That was with my director, by the way.
Sheesh.
So it wasn't this will be easy. It was, this is your director.
Yeah, you gotta. You that's the person you really have to impress.
That's yeah. And he's a really cool guy, super down to earth, easygoing, but man, he's tough. You don't get to be a director and be easygoing. No.
You don't.
He's really cool to work with. I'll say that. But he is really tough.
Yeah.
Don't get on his bad side. Did that, and that actually went well. We had a lot in common. We came from similar region. We had a lot of stuff that we could talk about. We hardly really talked about like specifics of me and my career and things that I did.
Yeah.
It's more of a personal conversation as well.
That's good. More companies should be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't uncomfortable at all. So, that was great. Flew back, and then, the waiting period started. So I was told 2 weeks, didn't hear anything. That's when I was like, well, I guess I didn't get that job. The third time was not the charm.
Yeah. Jeez.
And then the third week, I get a phone call, and they say, hey, we are still discussing. Give us some more time, we'll get back with you. Okay. Week 5 rolls around, I get another phone call, and that phone call was more serious.
Oh.
That's
like a good serious?
Good serious, but still no decision. So, there was some items that we discussed in that call that were like, okay, that leads me to believe that the next call could actually be a good outcome.
Yeah.
And at the time, my wife and I were planning our wedding. We got married super quick after engagement.
Yeah.
For one thing, why wait?
Sure.
And then secondly, just, stuff going on in our lives that, even with the Apple role and moving, I didn't want to bring my fiance with me to California. I wanted to bring my wife with me to California.
That title is very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even making her and her family feel comfortable in doing that, right? So, that 6th week, they call. Good news, obviously, got married a couple days later. That's when I told my family. That was really interesting as well. They had no idea. And then about 2 weeks later, we moved to California, and, now we're living this wonderful life we are now. But like I said, it's all like trust in God and luck. There were many times when I was in school where I didn't think I was going to pass an exam or pass a class.
Got to keep the faith, man, because I'm looking at your place here, and I'm asking like, who did you steal from, bro?
I wish I could tell you. I wish there was more in that Bank of America account, but I guess there will be one day later.
All right. If someone that wants to be where you are, but has no idea where to start, what advice would you give to that person that has the drive, has the knowledge, the wisdom, but just doesn't know where to get started? What would you tell them?
I started all this off of a hobby, right? And a passion, something that I enjoy and I love, right? So if you have the drive and the ambition, all that stuff, if you start doing something you love, you can quickly turn that into something that, is lucrative and supports you through life. So I always go back to cars. Cars are like my number one thing. I've been working on cars since I was a kid. I can't even tell you at this point how many cars I've owned.
Many.
Way too many cars and motorcycles. That's my passion. So, I was able to take that and then, spin it a little bit. So, go to school for mechanical engineering and so that was very mechanical. Yeah. So I could relate to it. I could relate cars to it. It was easy for me. I don't want to say easy to study, but it was more relatable, so it helped me study. But just never give up.
True.
Right?
But like people that give up don't get anywhere.
Yeah, there were a lot of times I just wanted to give up. Like a lot of times where I was like, I just want to transfer schools. Like I don't want to be here. This is not filling right now. Like it was really tough to get through when winters are bad and you're commuting what should be a 45-minute trip and it takes 3 hours to get to campus,
So you had to go, for the people that are listening, this man lived in an entirely different city than his university. Mm-hmm. And in the winters, if you don't know, if you're not in the Midwest, East Coast, when it's winter and it's snowing, your commute is doubled in a sense because you have to fight through the snow, the traffic, the people spinning out on the freeway.
Yeah, I was going to say the stupid.
Yeah. You have to look out for all of that stuff. So he persevered through all of that
safe
stuff.
And get home safe. There are definitely many days when I wasn't sure I was going to get to class or get home, or you'd be on campus and all of a sudden a storm comes out of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's
right.
very true.
And it's just like, how am I going to get home in this? So, eventually I did move to campus and got my own place, and I was able to, walk to class.
Yeah.
I had a 5-minute commute to work then instead of a hour-long commute, stuff like that. So, just progressing, right? So never giving up, progressing through, the different things. That's kind of, I guess, the only advice I'd have. I don't know.
That's fine. With all of that, with the success you've had, not everything is all rainbows and
roses.
Goods. Yeah, like no human being is like that. No. So in those tough times that you have had, what kept you going? Like what drove you to just when you wanted to quit, you wanted to just be done with it? What got you back up and ready to go at it again?
So, like I was saying earlier, I haven't always been the most faithful person.
Yeah.
But in those times, it was my faith and spirituality, right? So when I was struggling, I looked to my guardian angels, right? And my guardian angels are my grandmother and my grandfather.
Yeah.
Right? My grandmother is somebody that I've been able to look up to my entire life. A African-American woman from the South, moved to Detroit, following her dad, because her dad came to Detroit to work at the River Rouge Ford factory, right? Started with nothing. My grandmother would clean hotel rooms and
Wow.
any odd job she could have at that time to just, have money and be able to put food on the table for herself. She married my grandfather at a young age. They had, my aunt and, a short time later, my father. How short is, they can be the same age for a period of time within the same year. So very, very, they're very close together. But, my grandmother passed away when I was 15. I was a freshman in high school. A lot of folks kind of grow up with that vision of their grandparents are going to be around for their entire life.
Yeah.
They're gonna get to see them graduate high school. They're gonna get to see them graduate college and get to see them get married and all that stuff. I didn't have that. My grandfather passed away when I was 21. Literally was planning to go see him for spring break, because he lived in Florida. So obviously I'm going to Florida for spring break. Literally planning to go see him, and in that February of that year he passed away. Right. So but they've always been inspirational, right?
Yeah.
People that I could look up to, coming from tough times. My grandfather came from tough times in Cincinnati, growing up as a kid, and that's kind of how he ended up in Detroit. And they both worked extremely hard. My grandmother, she owned about 50, 60 homes in Detroit at one time that were all rental houses, always moving. She never slept. I don't know when my grandmother slept. She would lay down to go to bed, and before you could look up, she was already awake again.
Dude, they don't make a lot of women like that anymore. No. For sure.
She was a very special woman and very inspiring. So, that's what always kind of kept me going. Like I said, having that spirituality and that faith at the time, when things were getting really rough, I wasn't sure I was going to pass an exam, or things in my personal life weren't great. I wasn't sure I was going to get a job. I always did and still do, look to them for their direction.
What a story, man.
Yeah. I've been on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean before at a rave party.
Holy shit, by the way.
Yeah, holy shit. Just sitting on my balcony in my room, with all these different things going through my mind. No drugs, maybe some alcohol, plenty of alcohol. But just, all this crap going through my mind and just sitting there and going, you know what? I think I need some direction right now. I feel I'm not on the right path. I need direction.
Yeah. Right.
And getting those, maybe signs, may not be signs or whatever, but, to me, I took them as signs as, these are the decisions you should make instead of this, right? So, that has helped me tremendously, getting to those roadblocks and being able to just have that faith and just know that the path will open.
Yeah.
Right. As much as it seems blocked, it will open, and kind of going through that hurdle or that wall is what makes you a little tougher and helps build you and make you who you are. So
The skin's going to be a lot tougher the more you go through.
tough in the skin, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
One of the last questions I do want to pose is, being in the engineering space, you have to be creative. You have to create solutions, because engineers are just problem solvers, right? So what keeps you in such a creative mind space to keep innovating and creating things that don't exist yet?
For me, I think it's just like the high you get of problem solving.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people will not ever be able to understand this. And I talk about this with like coworkers, my boss, like we talk about this all the time, right? Especially as manufacturing engineers. You know, there's design engineers and I'm not saying other engineers are not good engineers, right?
True.
You know, that everyone is great at what they do. I'm just saying we are a special breed of different. We sometimes put ourselves through a lot of stuff, but just always thinking. I think like 24, well, except for when I'm sleeping. I probably think then too, as don't realize it. Think in the shower, you know, sometimes my wife will go, you know, why are you in the shower for so long? It's like, sometimes I'm just standing there like just thinking, you know, I don't know what about, but like just stuff. There's always, and like tons of stuff will just pop into my head.
Does your wife ever say to you, like, it feels like you're not really here and your mind is somewhere else?
There's plenty of times I'm just like staring off into space and she'll go, what the heck are you thinking about or doing over there? Like, I do that a lot. I've done that even since I was a kid. I've always been a little different and not like, you know, I was never really quote unquote popular for as many people that.
Yeah, look at us now.
Yeah, I know, right? For as many people that knew me when I was a kid or whatever, you know, I wasn't, you know, the most popular kid or whatever. I wasn't athletic or anything like that for the most part. But I was always thinking about like what I could do, how I could do things different, how I could be better, you know, stuff like that. So
good, man. That's good. That's good enough for me.
Keep thinking.
Never stop thinking. Always. I think CI is really important. So continuous improvement, just incrementally, just doing better and better every single day, by a smidget. Because at the end of a year, you're going to have 365 things that you didn't know the year before.
Right.
Yeah, and that makes you more valuable in a workspace, and also if you have your own business or want to start something on your own,
makes your
personal
life
you better.
more valuable. Yeah, exactly. You know, and we learned that just physically. You know, my wife and I, when we lived in Chicago, we started a goal board. So it's just a dry erase board, and we put goals on it that were things we wanted to do that month, which could have just been something simple enough down to like what days we were going to go on a date.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Right. So like, this weekend we want to do a date night, and you know, I would plan it or she would plan or whatever.
Yeah.
Or when we wanted to take a vacation or drive home to see my parents or anything like that. But we also had 1-year goals, right? So there were these 1-year goals of like, okay, we're going to look for jobs, or we're going to look for a new apartment, or, you know, just, you know, whatever those 1-year goals were. And then we had 5-year goals, you know, so stretch goals, but things that we knew we wanted to do within like the next 5 years. And interestingly enough, like those things that you want to do every month, like those are kind of just like your day-to-day thing.
Yeah.
Right. So like those are going to get done. But interestingly enough, like a lot of the crap on the 5-year goal side got finished within like the first 6 months.
That's it. It's the vision.
Like, yeah. Just having the vision and the drive.
There's literally nothing else to it. If you guys have ever heard of The Secret, it's a book and then they made it into a movie. You have to think it and you have to make steps on accomplishing those goals. And this is the fruits of his labor. This is the result of that. And I don't know what else people need to see, what people need to hear, that visualizing something in the future and actually accomplishing it, that is the meaning of life, in my opinion. Having goals and accomplishing those goals. That's why you have to have a reason to get up every morning. Mm-hmm. And that's seriously.
Whatever that reason may be, you know, if you have kids, you know, I'm getting up and, you know, I want to do better for my children, you know, if it's, you know, if you're just, you know, married or even if you're single, you know, like I want to get up every day and you know, accomplish X, Y, and Z, you know, better my career or just better my personal life, become healthier, you know, work out more or whatever, right? Just having those little things continue to make you a little bit better and continue to progress you through life and make you happy.
Yeah,
right.
That's number one, is to make sure that you're happy and you make yourself happy and you don't let anyone else control your happiness.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yep.
Last question of the interview. 3 people that you communicate with personally that you deem successful.
First one would be my dad.
Okay.
It's closest. Second one would be, ironically, both of the second and third person have the same name. So the second one would be my first buddy Reggie or Reginald, you know, and then the third one would be my other buddy Reginald. They both happen to be car buddies. They do 2 completely different things. One is in the medical field, very prominent, well-known, like has done interviews of Bill Clinton and all sorts of stuff. So like I'm sure some folks probably know who he is. And then my other buddy Reggie is like, he's previously was a software engineer and stopped doing that, has his own businesses. Actually has a couple of vape shops in the Metro Detroit area. That's his thing, and he does very well with it.
Good,
so,
bro.
You know, 2 different ends of the spectrum, and you know, got to keep your family in there somewhere too.
That's good. Always look up to people like that. Create a circle of friends that are successful in their own different way, so that you can look up to them. Because I look up to Jared. I want to be where he is in the future. I want to be able to control my destiny, my future, where I want to live. I want to milk companies for more money during an interview if I accept an offer. I want to, you have to keep that good, positive group of friends around you to keep you motivated to do better and better.
Yep, absolutely.
One last time for the people, say your name. If they want to reach out to you on social media, mention your social media if you want to.
Sure.
One last time, you can say it right to that camera right there.
Jared Wiles. Social media, Instagram is Ocean Drive J. I believe there's some underscores in there, so let me get it.
It's okay, you can grab your phone, man. Don't worry.
100% right, because I honestly don't remember. I don't shout any of this stuff out anymore. It's Ocean_Drive_J. Full Ocean, full Drive. J is just the letter. We've enjoyed our times in Miami, so that may or may not be where that handle comes from.
Yes,
but
legendary.
Yeah,
a lot of money spent down there.
Way too much money spent down there.
All right, that's a wrap on the interview, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we're going to go on to the next portion of the podcast, which is our COVID-19 weekly update. So still the previous top 5 states of new coronavirus cases. The 5 are Florida, Texas, California, Georgia, and Arizona. And in the past 7 days, Florida has had 82,217 new cases in 1 week. Texas, in second place, has 67,268 new cases. Crazy. California, just a little bit under Texas, at 63,019 new cases. Georgia, still going strong, unfortunately, at 25,471 new cases. And then we have number 5, which is Arizona, which is at 21,335. Boy, well, where I live is actually surrounded by 2 states in that top 5.
Of which folks that travel to your state all the time. This is not a race. These numbers should definitely be lower. And it's
crazy, man.
This is nothing what we toasted on New Year's.
We didn't want this. We were together on New Year's Eve in LA. We didn't
the toast at that time were totally different.
We didn't agree to this. But man, I appreciate you for your time, Jared. Thank you for being a part of the podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
If you guys are new to my channel or new to the podcast, my name is Las Vegas J. Follow me on YouTube if you are listening to us on the podcast. If you are watching us on YouTube, please go search for the Culture Exchange Podcast. where I will include the world news exclusively on the podcast only. It will not be available on video, unfortunately, so you have to go listen to the podcast. I thank you guys so much for your time. I know this was a long episode, but it's well worth it because you're getting gems for free. Seriously, this guy has been through it. Thank you guys so much again. His name is Jared. My name is Las Vegas Jay. We appreciate you guys. Peace.